Hello and welcome to A Skipper's Life, episode 10, playing the game U-Boat, of course. Last time we left off approaching this freighter, and due to the length of the live stream video, I decided to cut short before doing the attack, because these can take a while, sometimes not, depending on whether the ship is coming towards you or going away. In this case, the ship is moving away from us, so what I want to do here is make the approach, verify that this is a valid target, and then from there proceed accordingly, which we hope is a developing a torpedo solution and sinking the ship. I did reduce the speed right before the video start to a head full. We had been running a head flank for probably about an hour and a half, and that's really not good for your engines to run that long at that speed. It can damage them, and so we want to make sure we can actually return to port, and so there's no need to run flank like that. And realistically, the reason for running flank was because I have a competing submarine back here, and it's just, well, it's another U-boat, and if they sink the ship, it's good for the war effort, but yeah, I kind of wanted this on my own, so. It says they're back here at 201. I'm not seeing them any further, so they must have really dropped that of sight. So we will continue with the attack. Looks like we're about 120 degrees off bow to the port side. So we are gaining on them. This is an Empire Bell freighter. I'm not sure. It actually looks like it might be an Empire Explorer, which is good. An Empire Explorer, slightly greater tonnage capacity. Different characteristics. Their masts are different height. But based on this angle, it looks like it could be. One thing that is a defining characteristic for this boat is this third post in the center, which I don't really see. I see the cat ring cable here. It doesn't look like there's anything in the middle, which would make me believe that it's an Empire Bell. It could be this little part we're seeing right here, towards the front of the bridge. There is probably, that's glass. So it's letting light through, and so that might be throwing off our view and making us think that it's something else that when it really isn't. So we will continue with this approach. 10 knots, standard maximum speed for this ship. We're moving currently 12, so it's going to take a while to overtake him with a 2-knot differential if we were heading at the same on the same course. And I believe we're slightly off the same course as them. So we will see how that goes. If I remember correctly, we did prep torpedoes already. Let's go down and check, make sure everything's good downstairs. Come on. Bridge on the Type 2 boat's a little bit tighter, so that at times creates challenges with being able to access the control room. Sorry, captain's inspection here. Your place clean. Looks like they are showing us all maintained. If I remember correctly, we did maintain them in the last video towards the end, once we made contact. Alright, so we're doing good here. Let's go focus on the mission. Continue. Still don't see them. Interesting. Well, Not so sure. And welcome to those who are viewing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section.
Der feuchte Nebel steiget. Mein Tagwerk ist getan. Mein Tagwerk ist getan.
Not exactly sure what that is. I know it's a German poem or part of a song. I'm not exactly sure which one it is. Haven't been able to identify it yet. Since I can see both the bow and the stern of the ship, we could reduce speed and take a speed measurement for that vessel at this time. Although being this far away, we're subject to some error because of the when you start the reading, are you really on the bow of the ship, or are you off of it? And being the farther away you are, the greater that slice of pie, if you look at it from your ship going out to their ship. There's a straight line that is actually the bow, but if you start it before or after, there's a little wedge there that forms, like a really thin piece of pizza or a thin piece of pie. And the edge of that pie, like when you look at a pizza, when you're in the center, the distance from one edge of the slice to the other edge of the slice is very small, but when you get out towards the edge, the end on a standard 8 slices of pizza, it's, a couple inches, of arc there. So that, if you take that arc out and make it just a flat line, you get a, you can see what I'm referring to here is that distance is the error that could be in our calculation for speed. And of course, errors in speed are very important for torpedo calculations because it's how far the ship travels on the ocean relative to your torpedo course. So you can make a difference between a hit midships and a hit foredeck, or a hit midships and missing completely either to the fore or aft because they're traveling at a different speed than you calculated. And of course, for those who are really new to submarine games and or maybe teenagers that are interested in it, an explanation here would be is it's not instantaneous. I don't shoot this target and it's instantly from here to there at like a light speed. It would be traveling at a speed like throwing a baseball. It takes time to get from point A to point B. So, well, with that in mind, let's see if we can get this this underway. I may take a preliminary speed measurement just to see if it's in the ballpark. And of course, I have to go to the, you can't do that here because it's not going to do you any good. The type, this is actually a set of binoculars. The Type 2 U-boat does not have a UZO. If I was in a Type 7 submarine, I would have a UZO I'd be looking through, and you can take measurements there and feed the information directly to the torpedo data computer. Of course, the speed here calculated is also got an error because we were moving at 12 knots. So when they move from point A to point B on the in your field of view, that's not exactly a true representation because you need to be either not moving or moving very slowly to get an accurate measurement. There is a fancy geometry, trigonometry way to calculate that even if you're moving at your speed. And if you know what your speed is, you can estimate what their speed is based on the change. But that's a really in-depth calculation, and that's usually not one that's made on boats of this era. It requires a big blackboard. And it's something that's not fed into the torpedo data calculator circles that they would have. I forget what those are called. They're little circles, and you enter data in one in one form on the device, and it can output a torpedo launch angle. are closing, and I can tell that the stern is getting taller off the ocean here. But it is taking some time. They are clearly moving less than 10, because it feels like we're gaining on them faster than we would be if they were moving at 10. So we can take a preliminary statement and say, well, they're going to move about 7 knots. Start taking some data if possible. Down here. Let's see, to the post here, which is the attack periscope.
Bestätige.
This is 0.6, 0.5. And for those who get seasick, I apologize. You can see how it would be difficult to take a measurement at this speed, because the faster you go, the more the ship's going to undulate relating to the waves. I do believe we are still dealing with an Empire Bell. It does have some short posts right here. The posts are less than the top of the reinforced mast there, so I'm going to go ahead and call this Empire Bell. One part of the game I wish that we could have set, and I may have to let the developers know here, is this value here. It's providing me that it's 3,000 gross register tonnage. It can be calculated roughly, not calculated, but I guess estimated is the appropriate word there, where you have the ship's, well, you can tell how heavily loaded something is based on what it typically looks like in the water. Is it riding low in the water to the water line with the line along the boat, or is it heavily, like barely showing above the surface, meaning it's heavily loaded? I really wish that it would, that they could delete this out, because if you're trying to make a target, you're going to choose this boat. If there's 8 boats out here, you're going to go clicking through them and try to find out which one is the highest gross tonnage. And you should have to make that calculation on your own. If you're playing hardcore like I am, I'd really like that to disappear. So, as you can see, we're really not getting anywhere with the estimation on velocity right here. We can go ahead and back out a little bit and use, this one's a little bit going to be harder to do because we're farther away, so there's more error, like I said, with when it starts and when it stops than there is with this view. And then there's even more error with this one, because you just can't time when you're going to go ahead and do that. So that being said, I'm going to stop making people sick here. You go ahead and leave it on this setting so it's able to take some measurements, but not exactly gonna make us all sick with all the bobbing. We'll come back to that when we close on the target more and pick up the rest of the information, including the reduction in speed to take that measurement. We'll just wait until we're a little bit closer so the error is not there. I do think that it's a good idea to take the measurement before they see us, of course, because then they'll alter their speed and they'll start changing their course, which will mess with all the measurements. But for being a 1x standard, of course, because it's just my eyeball magnification here, I'm seeing a lot of reflection from that boat, so I'm worried that pretty soon they'll start to see us as the sun reflects light off of us back to them. The only advantage we do have is we sit low in the water. I am thinking we need to change course slightly, though. It feels like our angle of intercept is gonna still put them behind. We'll be behind them still slightly if we have to fire torpedoes, and I'd like to be ahead of them. So I'm go ahead and change course to 020.
0 Grad.
Okay. Here we are closing rapidly. Not as fast as I'd like, because it's still going to take us 15 minutes or so to get into a position where we can start judging their course and being close to being a port side to them. Sometimes you can see people wandering on the deck. I think we're a little far away to still see them. Another method of attack is if we had the Type 7 boat. It has a deck gun, and with a deck gun, we could start shelling this ship. Effectiveness, of course, the same problem with measuring speed is there's error at distance, and it would be a little ineffective, but that is another attack method we could choose. And it's actually a method when you got a single boat like this that I prefer to use in calmer seas like this, where it's a lone isolated ship and you can save your torpedoes for when you have conditions that may not be as ideal for using a deck gun or convoy assaults. Let's see here. We are gaining. You can see the outline. You can see the line of the ship right there. The water line. That usually means when the boat's fully loaded, that water line is even with the water. You can see the tail. Yeah, definitely an Empire bell. Looking closely at the flags, those flags look red to me. So since we're behind, what I'm looking for is in the upper left-hand corner of the flag. This is a rectangle. I want to look in the upper left-hand corner because the ship is moving to the left. And I'm going to be looking to see if I can make out the Union Jack. If it looks a little more white up in the upper left-hand corner, that's usually a sign that it is a British ship. That white being representative of the reflection we would see from the Union Jack. Yes, 100% confident that is a Empire bell. So the idea here is to pull up beside them at distance so they can't see us, because that'll just ruin the whole thing. And get a good accurate measurement if it looks like they're the same distance from us the entire time, when they're at 90 degrees our starboard, and if we measure them roughly 90 degrees to our starboard and it appears that we are directly 270 degrees from there on the bow there for them, so that'd be 90 degrees port. If those two are roughly equal, that means our course is roughly the same as theirs. And if that is the case, then we can take that into account when we make our torpedo calculations, that their course would be, for instance, if it's the same now, using our current course, we are traveling at 020, and if that is true, that it appears that they are 90 degrees off our right side and starboard side, and they're appear to be 90 degrees off their port side, then we can assume that their course is relatively 020 as well. That would also form one leg of a right triangle, which helps make torpedo calculations easier. Additionally, these older torpedoes require us to basically hit within a 70 degrees each side of, 20 degrees each side of 90. So, 70 degree angle or greater. So if you fire directly at the ship and you're going to hit it perpendicular, which would be 90 degrees, you're going to get a good result. Less likely to be a dud or have a problem with the impact pistol on the torpedo. If you fire from plus or minus 20 with these Type 1 torpedoes of that 90 degrees perpendicular, you'll do okay because that's a 20 degree impact angle. If you get impact angles greater than that, you start having problems. On newer, or I should say future torpedoes at this time because they're not built yet, that impact pistol gets altered from this current World War I style torpedo to allow for larger angles of impact. They also include a magnetic detonator, magnetic pistol, which early on is I could fire a magnetic one at this ship. The magnetic one does allow for more freedom of attack angle. You can be greater than the 20 degrees, plus or minus, with an actual impactor. However, the magnetic torpedoes are very unreliable. Sometimes you would fire them and a quarter of the way to the target, they just detonate, and so you'd have this. It would give you away. So I tend to not use those early on in the war. I would use them probably 1942 or later, when that magnetic pistol becomes more reliable. So we're getting closer, getting closer. The other possibility for this flag would be a Norwegian flag, red with a white and blue plus sign, which is not exactly centered. It's slightly, the intersection between the two lines is slightly towards the mast. And this very well could be one of those. It's hard to tell at this distance. I do seem to be making out some white there now. The white, if it's more prominent white, it's likely the Union Jack. There's more white there showing with the difference in the way the flag is, well, designed by the particular power. Upper left-hand corner. It looks like we're getting closer to probably a 130 degrees now, so we've closed on it by another 10 degrees. And thank you again to those who are watching the stream. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comment section and I can address them. Potentially. I don't know everything, but quite a bit about this game and quite a bit about submarining warfare. So I'm going to line this up with the center. I would say we're 28 degrees off our starboard side. If I'm 28 degrees and they're 130, that means we still have about 10-15 degrees of difference in our courses. Would be from 140 from 180 would be 40 degrees, so we have 10 degrees difference right there. If we're at 130, then we'd have almost 20 degree difference. I'm seeing white up in front. I think this is the Union Jack. That looks like a valid target to me. You can kind of make it out in the upper left-hand corner of each of these. And of course, I'm not anywhere near ready to make a torpedo calculation and actually begin the assault here. So there's really no reason to jump to conclusions here. We still have time. As you can see, we're outpacing them because I have to keep resetting this on their bow. If I reset this on their bow, you can watch that gap grow. That's two possibilities for that. One means that their course is further to the starboard than our course, so further eastward of our course, or we are in fact overtaking them, which I would expect since we're moving 12 knots and they max out at 10. So even if they move their maximum speed, we're still going to outpace them, so that gap should grow. The rate at which it's growing makes me feel comfortable with the fact that I think we have almost identical courses. Good enough for torpedo calculations. Your course, your estimated target course, depending on your range, introduces more error the farther they are away. You could, be plus or minus 5 degrees, and it's not going to make much difference up close. But that plus or minus 5 degrees at 6 kilometers can be almost as much as having your speed measurement off by a knot. Let's see. Okay, we're at about 30 center line now. I do believe we have 130 here, 140, so I think we're within 10 degrees. So we're close to that margin of error for good targeting. And the flag is getting closer and closer in resolution. It's getting bigger as we close in. Right. Definitely getting close. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move out of this guy's way because he's having a spaz with his pathfinding.
Kurs 10 Grad.
I am going to move 10 degrees more to the port on my course. I want to get ahead of them before they identify me, well, or see me. If they see anything out here, they're going to freak out. So that's another reason to move slower. If I move too fast, they may see the smoke cloud because we run flank. Your engine exhaust is way dirtier, and there's of course more volume of it. And then also your rooster tail or your wake is larger, may be seen, and especially the splash off the bow is noticeable at a greater distance, even for something that's low in the water. So I want to make sure I keep my distance from them passing by, and I may need to reduce speed further, but there is a trade-off. If you reduce speed, what occurs is they have more, you're in that area longer, which means they have more it's higher resonant time, which means you're more likely to be seen because, well, you're in their sight longer versus something that's moving faster. So there's a trade-off there. You got to find out what the best balance is. If the conditions were not as clear as they are, I could maintain this speed, but with the clear skies and the sea condition being a lower on the Buford scale, I'm not sure if I want to maintain this velocity at this range too much longer. definitely something to consider. All right, let's see what we think now for course. Oh yeah, definitely valid target. There's the white up in the upper left-hand corner I'm talking about. So this is indeed a valid target for me. Since we have no need to alarm everybody, I'm not going to ring the bell and freak out, call alarm, calling people to stations that way. We can quietly do this as we approach. If you're really close, we're almost at that range now, that if I ring a bell, our bell is below decks, but from close to this distance, you can hear a bell. It's happened in previous times. The game renders it pretty well. I've played the game before, and I've had a successful torpedo strike, and you can, in a convoy, and you can hear the bells ring out on the convoy from ships at roughly 2-3 kilometers. Sometimes the ship that gets hit does it too, and you can hear it because, well, obviously they're in distress, so they move to alarm stations. But I think at this point we have nobody's alive. Sometimes that resets it, looks like it did. You're at the navigation station. So we have places, people in their stations where they need to be. Torpedoes are maintained, so this officer is not rushing to maintain them. I would like to get them on the torpedo calculator, but we don't need that just yet because we are still probably 15 minutes from firing position. And I'm getting nervous about this course though. It does look like we are still closing on them. My engines are going pretty hard too, so I may not hear if they move to action stations. My first opportunity to notice if they've moved to an action stations situation would be if their course starts changing and as they start zigzagging. Looks like their course has changed relative to ours. That could be our departure angle included in that as we move away from them. I think we're separating. Our course is going away from them. This post right here almost looks like it's moving left. And if this post is moving left, that means they're turning. I think we've been spotted. Those flags are definitely at a different orientation, and they just were. We've been spotted. So the enemy has started zigzagging. I got too close. The sun reflecting off our hull gave us away. You can see they're now turning port. So with this kind of condition, the only thing we can do is leave their sight and wait for them to reset. They'll run zigzagging for a while afterwards, but after they lose contact with us, there's usually a period of time if they don't see us, they will, from that point, move back to return to their standard course that they had plotted. And so in this case, We just prolonged our attack. Now that I'm not sneaking up on him, my torpedo calculation probably won't start for about 30 minutes. Apologize, I couldn't hit my mute button faster. That also means this course that I can project from this current bearing and angle on bow is incorrect. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to course 350.
Kurs 350 Grad.
Try to separate from him a little bit. You can close on a ship like this, get right up next to him and anticipate their zigzagging course and fire a torpedo and be successful. I've been able to do that a couple times, but your chance of success is really, really low. You basically have to get right up on him and fire at point blank range with a torpedo that's set to maximum speed. It's not an easy thing to do, and your failure probability is real high. Not exactly how I wanted to run this attack run. I thought I could get away with it being closer, but clearly I'm a bright reflective target in the water, and I let myself get too close. I should have been out a little further. Some of that is narration, as I'm describing what I am doing and how and strategy. During that narration, I got a little complacent and didn't make adjustments properly. It's correctable, but it prolongs the engagement. Maximum speed underwater is about 7 or 8 knots, so if we get far enough ahead of them, we could submerge and then we're out of sight. But I prefer to do that once I've left their sight and they can reliably no longer see you, but you can still make out their funnel smoke on the horizon, and then submerge from that point and then make my approach. Especially after you've been discovered. Guess almost at this point it doesn't matter if I kick up the engines to higher speed or not. If I've been spotted.
Äußerste Kraft voraus.
Now the smoke turns black as the additional fuel is dumped in and complete burning of the fuel with the lower temperatures. So they definitely see us now. This boost in speed will get us ahead of them quicker. guess one thing I'd be concerned about is if they radioed for help, but we're way away from England, so there's no chance that any airplane would get out here to help them anyway. Plus, early in the war like this, they probably don't have the range. As you can see, we're getting ahead of them and then performing a standard maneuver. They are turning away to minimize their cross-section and make it harder for a torpedo to hit. They likely pulled that course once they saw our fuel exhaust plume, as they expected us to make an attack run. They might believe we're closing on them, so we'll just give them a little bit of something to think about. Fuel is, engine temperatures have come up, so our fuel exhaust is, engine exhaust, however you want to put it, is not quite as, I guess the opacity is low, higher. I forget which way that one goes. Opacity is the ability to see through the smoke. Sun's really giving away our position now. But I'm just going to go ahead and turn.
Kurs 3, 2, 1 Grad.
This will minimize our reflective surface and make it harder for them to see us. Nice glow. Water's rendered pretty good in this game. One thing we have to be concerned about too, being on this side, is that if we approach them submerged, once we get in position, that they'll be able to spot us submerged at a greater distance due to the reflection of the sun also. Kind of wondering, they may have actually altered their course completely just to move away from us. May actually be ahead of them. A couple minutes of that course. We haven't traveled that far. can see, it takes quite a bit of time to maneuver a boat in position. These boats don't move very fast. Type 7 has a greater speed, stronger engines. So with that boat running flank, I would be in a much better position already. They probably wouldn't even see me anymore. Although that I can almost not make out where the deck is separating right now. I think we're at a pretty good distance now. They may not even see me anymore. And it looks like their course is maintaining steady and true.
Kurs 0 Grad.
Sie es als erledigt, Herr Kanoi.
The problem is this will now make us reflect more again. Engines are running nice and hot now. And place their ship at 7 kilometers, roughly. Let's see. I think they're still zigzagging. Yeah, they're still zigzagging. If they can see my reflection, it's not worth slowing down. I might as well just continue at this velocity until I'm out of sight. Have they returned to base course? It doesn't look like a zigzag anymore. Distance between the posts at the back end here appears to be maintaining the same, roughly. Yeah, I think they've returned to base course. So since our vectors are two different vectors, it'll take us longer to get ahead of them at a different vector, but we're almost to the point where I think we can try to assume their course again, which if I remember correctly was 020. Like I said, this shows just how well you can see a ship at sea in good conditions. If it was foggy, well, I probably wouldn't be able to see them right now. And it was rougher seas, they wouldn't be able to see me at all. But currently we're approaching 90 degrees port from them. Yeah, they're still zigzagging because they just, those posts were lined up and now they switched. This is going to take longer than I thought. I thought I'd be in position to fire already and would have already done so. Also shows limitations in speed in this boat and the fact that they're traveling pretty quick, I think. And we are now 90 degrees again, unless that's other post is hidden by the main mast. Which that's the case. You can see it slowly separating. Right there.
Große Fahrt voraus. If I had a deck gun and not an anti-aircraft gun, I would probably be already attacking them. Especially once they see you. Once they start zigzagging, the only thing that's capable of adapting quick enough is the deck gun. Kurs 2,0 Grad.
Alright, there's that 90 degrees I was talking about, roughly. And the changes on their ship right now may just be related to course corrections for maintaining heading. Getting there. Maintain this course for probably another 10 minutes and then I'll make the change just to probably 060 to start our intercept. And at that point we may submerge as well. Another thing you can do while on surface to try to help conceal your ship is to run without the diesel engines, run electric only.
but your speed is significantly limited. You get about 10 knots at flank versus 14. Submerging right now would be good to help set them at ease or freak them out, I guess, one way or another. If they lose sight of us, they probably will stay panicked for a while. But I don't want to submerge until at least I'm even with them. Maybe in a condition where where I'm ahead of them, because when you start closing distance, your vector is different than theirs, and so they actually close out that distance faster because they'd be moving at the same speed as you. Course is starting to look pretty steady. I think that they've lost sight of me. The question is that due to changing weather conditions? The sun is just up higher, which means our reflection is going to be a little less possible to be seen. I approached at the worst possible time, considering the fact that the sun was lower on the horizon, so it gave angle of incidence equals angle of reflection, and so it means that the angle that comes in from the sun's elevation in the sky off the plane tangent to the Earth's surface, it's going to bounce reflectively and at that same angle, so they're likely to see me more at with the reflection from my ship at sunset or sunrise. As the sun moves up, the reflection disappears and they can't see you as well from a distance, because I just look like part of the ocean now. I think that's why we're seeing their course maintaining the same. They could have changed course for a while and decided not to be on course at 020, and maybe you're at 040. But this also could mean that we're at the same speed, which I find hard to believe. One hour mark. Thank those who watched the stream. probably getting tired of watching me see the same position in this boat for as long as you have. At this target off my starboard side. These things have to be done carefully, otherwise your chance of success is very low. As you can see, I already had an error if you watched earlier on, and well, I didn't take into account the angle of the sun. I got too close and they were able to see me.
Kurs 3,0 Grad.
Let's see. The goal here is not to close on the target, so it should look the same on the horizon the entire time. But the aspect ratio, the distance we see between these posts, these intake vents, and these posts here, and these gantry cranes, change. That would tell us whether we're moving ahead or behind them. And we hope it's ahead because that makes the most sense. That needs to happen roughly at the same rate at which we have to adjust our viewing binoculars to maintain target. Otherwise, there's a variable that's off. Feels like a captain should go get a sandwich or something right now and eat while waiting to close out this distance. Get in the right position. Again, if I had a deck gun, this would already be over. But with only an anti-aircraft gun, the ability to penetrate the hull and actually sink a ship without any torpedoes, using only an AA gun, not going to happen. Not with this little AA gun. Now, if I had the later model quad AA gun, I could take out a ship with the AA gun alone. A lightly armored ship, not a warship. Not even newer freighters either. The Liberty class freighter is a little bit tougher. Liberty class freighter meaning Liberty class freighter also comes with it's got its own set of anti-aircraft guns on the bow, which it likes to shoot at you. It may be a small caliber bore gun, like similar to the deck gun that the submarine has. And this gun at the very back is one you don't want to mess with because it can be actually a destroyer or cruiser battery. I believe is what that is on the back here. Newer early models don't have them, but definitely the later models do. And as you can see, the Empire Tower also has a spot for an anti-aircraft gun. But the Liberty is one that's I've had hard times with, as they tend to shoot back. Like I said, I wanted those vents to close distance and the gantry cranes and whatnot. It looks like it is. So I believe we have matched their course. Now we just have to get in position ahead of them. One suggestion, if you haven't done it already, if you're watching this stream in the future, is if you're watching the stream in the future, well, when you're waiting for me to move into attack position, you can just speed up the video. Yeah, those vent posts are almost on top of each other now. And if we're directly to their port, these gantry cranes will line up forward and aft. I believe these are offset a little bit, so it's hard to use them as a measure of where you're at, angle on bow. But these gantry cranes, they're swept out about 30 degrees to the port and starboard. So. Starts looking like they widen now, we might be going the wrong course. I would suspect a ship headed for the port of Bergen from where we are would be on course 030, 045, or 060, depending on which way they approach through the fjords.
Bestätige.
Estimated just outside the fjords. We're running out of time to make our attack. We're going to go about another 13 kilometers before we can get in position, so we're getting close to running out of position. Course from their original. They may not be on 030, they may be on 035. That looks like it's widening. Or am I ahead of them? Am I ahead of them now? It almost looks like I am. Yeah, I can't tell how that can be. Almost looks like I can see the back, the stern deck there. If that's the case, I am ahead of them, and that would explain why these are getting wider. I think I'm ahead of them. I think I'm ahead of them. I may be able to start my attack run now. If that's the case, we're almost, what is that? Those are 30, they're 40. If these gantry cranes are 45 degrees off, if this one lines up with this one, I can use that measurement and say I'm 45 degrees off their bow. I don't think that they're going the other direction. I think I'm ahead. I'm seeing some light back here shining at me, which makes me think I'm seeing the sun reflecting off the stern deck and coming towards me. For 100. Alright, we'll execute the attack run when they're bearing 120. To move in at high speed like this, still maintaining the head full speed, and then submerge before being spotted. About another 5-10 minutes, we'll be in position to start the run. And the attack run will probably take about 10 minutes itself, closing distance, submerging, making torpedo calculations. And then we have to wait for the thing to sink, because you don't get credit for it sinking until it has sunk and you've acknowledged that you've seen it sink.
Melden Sie mir die aktuelle Tiefenmessung.
Der Grund liegt tiefer als 150 Meter, Herr Kanal.
Okay.
Die Messung ist nicht präzise.
We'll know we're approaching the fjords when that starts becoming less than 150. Yeah, I'm moving faster than them, and if they were moving faster than me, this would be the case, but I'm moving faster than them, and this post is now lining up pretty close, so we're definitely ahead of them. Getting closer. I like that 120 mark on a beam, because if I turn 90 degrees and start closing fast, from 120, 90 would put them at 30 degrees off my bow, which is a good target point. And if my speed is higher than theirs, which it is initially, that sets me up for closing faster than they close on me, so that angle would grow from 30 to 40 to 50 to 60. And if I can get it to go from 30 to 45 before I'm seen, I can submerge at 45. And because I travel slower submerged, and then from there, we go from there. We can start our measurements. So, getting closer. Also, the idea behind getting it to 120 and then going is that it allows you to get ahead of them and have to wait for them to come to you. If you're trying to make up the distance and if you're waiting for them to come to you, it's an easier calculation because you're sitting and it's a more stable position. If you're having to continue moving all out to make that position, then there's an error there that can be introduced. You have a small window of opportunity. Yeah, I think those cranes are at 45 degrees. I think I'm at 45 now. That looks about right. I can use that in the future if I know what that value is. The other thing I can do is instead of turning to try to be a perpendicular course to them, is I can make a small adjustment to our course now. I can turn 30 degrees to the starboard from our current course and start closing that distance as I'm moving ahead. But sometimes I make small adjustments like that, 30 degrees at a time. However, you start closing when you do that. And the closing is slower, but it again leaves you resident time in the same area for too long, which can create opportunities for them to see you. Here we go, getting close, getting close. Come on. He'll have to maintain torpedoes. Watch, that'll be my luck. That's Murphy's Law for you. He'll have to maintain torpedoes right before I'm ready to fire. Just a few more minutes. I have been successful making a torpedo strike from this distance before too. If you settle down your speed just right and you get yourself set up, and you have a pretty good accurate measurement of distance, you can sometimes be successful from up to. I have made the torpedo solution work against a tanker, which is taller and easier to see. It was partially over the horizon still, and I was able to hit the target. Its estimated range was about 11.5 kilometers. So it can be done. The range of these torpedoes, its maximum range is 12. You consider the run, that's why you want to be ahead, because if you're behind them, it has to travel farther before it targets them, so that effective range, even though the maximum range of the torpedo is 12 kilometers, you have to be closer than that, because the run, if you're behind them, the run, your distance may be 10 kilometers out, but the torpedo, depending on your differential speed for the target and its angle, it may outrun that torpedo's lifespan. Its effective range make contact at 14 kilometers, which of course it dies at 12, so you wouldn't make that solution. Alright, let's start the run. We've waited long enough. We know they're roughly that distance there.
Kurs 900 Grad.
Alright, here we go. I chose 60 degrees and not 90, so instead of making 20 to 30 degrees off the bow, it's going to be higher. And in a couple here, I think we're going to go ahead and go to electric engines. Again, we have a large solar. The sun is reflecting at them. Don't want to end up in the same situation where I tip off our position. We're greater than 45. If our contact angle was 90, we would get there beforehand at the same speed. Let's go ahead and switch over to electric engines.
Auf E-Motoren wechseln.
We're getting for speed 7, 8 knots.
Auf Seerohrtiefe.
We're going to go ahead and submerge. All right.
Bestätige.
All right, the view will become more stable as we submerge. Our speed will also stabilize. All right, we know it's that Empire Bell. Go an angle on bow 045.
Jawohl, Herr Kalon. Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Jawohl, Herr Kaloi.
Union Jack spotted. Verified. I think when we're at this distance, I'm going to get a speed measurement.
Alle Maschinen stopp.
Right. Here we go.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Geschwindigkeit 8 Knoten.
Alright, so I believe it's 8 knots. We'll update the angle on bow and distance when we get there. We need to close out a little further. More accurate calculation. Again, back to the slice of pie. Here we go. I'll have to fire at a greater distance though because of the fact that, well, they'll be able to see me underwater as my reflection from the sun. Let's see, what do we have for our current distance? this light tells me this has been inputted into the torpedo data computer and set. These other boxes here send the information, reading out basically my content to the officer running the TDC, and these lights will pop up once that information has been entered. And then over here you would see that there is another light that pops up here letting us know that this has all been synchronized. I'm not exactly sure if they're 4,200 meters away. This feels closer than that. This ship at this angle on bow will go from edge to edge roughly at about 2,300. So this feels a little closer than that. My measurement may have been a little off. Just continue my approach. Just about in position to go ahead and start our other parts of our calculation here. We are less than 48 on the bow. I need to get this number as high as -70. I'm going to go ahead and slow to
Langsame
1/3.
Fahrt voraus.
I'm going to slow us to 4 knots.
Horchraum besetzen.
As I mentioned in my last video, that this gives you a rough estimate. It says freighter 51 degrees middle range being 2,500 to 5,000 meters. It's an approximate estimate. Definitely Union Jack in that corner. You can see the white outline of that square now, kind of. And now 45 degrees.
Aktualisieren. Gegnerlage 4, 5 links.
We want the impact angle to be 20 degrees port or forward or aft of being true port, normal to the surface, which means this angle I need to fire at something probably based on this speed. I could probably fire between 50 and 50 degrees once it's greater than 50. So by the time the torpedo travels there, it's going to be moving ahead of it, so the impact angle will be different. The angles of the triangle. If I know I'm 45 now and I want to get 90, then I have to fire it when they're at 45. That would assume that the torpedo travels the same velocity as the ship, which it doesn't. It's 1/3, so it's going to skew that. Torpedoes travel 30 knots unless you adjust their speed to 40 or 45, 44 knots. Okay, good surface conditions, they may see the torpedo coming pretty easily, so I may have to fire this with a higher velocity so there's less time to react.
Tauchen auf 10 Meter.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
Let's just get ourselves down a little lower.
Zehn Meter.
Come on, gentlemen. Let's get you back up on the surface. Come on.
Auf Seerohrtiefe.
Herr Kaloi, wir sind auf Seerohrtiefe.
work.
Boot für Rundblick eingesteuert. Wenn sich die Sonne neiget, der feuchte Nebel steiget. Mein Tagwerk ist getan, mein Tagwerk ist getan.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Entfernung 2, 4, 4, 8 Meter. Aktualisieren. Winkel 5, 4, Bug links. Rohr 1 bewässern.
Now we'll prepare the tube.
Kleine Fahrt voraus.
Rohr 1 bewässert.
Aktualisieren. Winkel 6, 1, links.
Shoot. Let's get one more measurement here.
Alle Maschinen stopp. Aktualisieren. Geschwindigkeit 7 Knoten. Aktualisieren. Entfernung zum Ziel 1, 8, 7, 1 Meter. Winkel 7, 3, Bug links. Aktualisieren. Gegnerlage 6, 9, Bug links. Los!
We'll see how well we did. Should be halfway the distance now.
40 Sekunden bis Torpedoeinschlag. 30 Sekunden. 20 Sekunden. 10 Sekunden bis Einschlag. Fehlschuss.
Okay, so we missed there. Well, we're going to set this at 090 now.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Gegnerfahrt 8 Knoten.
I think they spotted me again. Damn it. Actually, we're slightly behind them now.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Winkel 9,3 links. Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Entfernung zum Ziel 1,76, 3 Meter. Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Winkel 9,6, Bug links. Rohr 3 bewässern.
Rohr 3 bewässert.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Lage 9,8 links. Los!
All right, let's see what we got here.
Kleine Fahrt voraus. Kurs 8,0 Grad. Der Torpedo ist auf halbem Weg. 40 Sekunden bis Torpedoeinschlag. 30 Sekunden. 20 Sekunden. 10 Sekunden bis Einschlag. Treffer!
There it is. We have a hit, ladies and gentlemen. We have a hit.
Navigation besetzen.
Wow, that was a pretty good hit. They're already starting to list port. The angle here is not correct. They're listing port pretty quick. Wow.
Anblasen.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
Herr Kaloin, wir sind aufgetaucht.
Rudergänger 20 Grad. Backbord. Ruder mittschiffs. Langsame Fahrt voraus.
Move into position to help survivors and guarantee that we have sunk the ship indeed, and maybe help it if we need to. See, they're still underway. Trying to, anyway. Water's about flooded the engine room. They'll lose power here shortly. And there it is. Couple last gasps for that engine.
Funkraum besetzen.
Wir wurden von einem nahegelegenen U-Boot über ein mögliches Ziel in diesem Gebiet informiert.
Well, we will see if this ship will sink. Still looks like it's trying to, but sometimes they take a while. We'll notice by either this post going further underwater or this one going down also. This little vent back here. Don't see any lifeboats. that ship is still sinking. Sometimes they reach equilibrium where there's just the right conditions and the ship will stay bobbing with its nose out of the water or its tail out of the water. And it won't go down unless you put more holes in it to let air escape. But our stern vent just disappeared below water, and our port side post is about to go underwater, so. We will see. I really should have waited to fire that first torpedo till I had a better solution, but it turns out what the problem was there is the velocity was off, 7 knots. That's what I had it set for, and he was actually moving at 8, which, because of an incorrect measurement, which means that essentially the torpedo missed behind them. So no one probably saw it. That's the reason why they didn't start evading. And was able to have a successful second torpedo strike. The error came in the fact that we were measuring the speed when the ship was not perpendicular to our viewing angle, which introduces error. It probably was a very near miss. Meaning if I was closer by even just a few hundred meters, it may have been a stern strike. Currently, at this point in the war, there shouldn't be any reprisals from the air especially, but no reprisals from ships would be the only thing I'd expect out here where we're at. I don't believe I would encounter even a British warship. There's a lifeboat. You can see the Union Jack, as I mentioned, there's that white, kind of gives it away in the corner. Thank those who have continued to watch up to this point, and those who are watching in the future, thank you. The ship will take some time to sink. You may either want to speed up the recording, or if you leave the stream, I don't blame you. The torpedo strike has been successful. We just won't get any credit until the ship sinks. Is nearly under. I may have to go around the other side of the ship to the starboard side and put a few holes in this thing to help it sink faster, or at all. These old Type 2 boats, essentially a World War I boat, doesn't really have the range of a Type 7 or even a Type 9, so we may end up having to do some hybridization of our fuel to get back, where I run on electric motors for a while and then run on diesels to make sure we have plenty of fuel to return to port. have some visitors. I will not be able to take all. As well and help the survivors.
Kleine Fahrt voraus.
Our air usage is going to go up, of course. More people means more air being used. Give them supplies. Have some potatoes. Really don't like that it does that to me in the menu. I'm in that menu, it should just leave me alone and then put me back where I was, unless we are submerging or something that needs to put me under deck. So how many are left in this lifeboat? 4? Okay. Well, one thing's certain is that it gives them a chance to Richard Harris. Oh wow, well he's not going to be able to make Harry Potter. Not going to be able to be cast in that movie. Anyway. The ship is still sinking. It looks like it's going further under. Still got an air pocket at the bow, I'm assuming. If I puncture a couple holes on the other side, it should help. Maybe even this side. Another method would be to hit it with another torpedo, put it on the bottom that way. Okay, well that is not going to work, I guess.
Navigation besetzen.
Then you go back to the navigation station. I'll take care of this.
Bestätige. Ruder 5 Grad, Steuerbord.
Autosave. I don't want to put 100 shells in it.
Ruder 10 Grad, Steuerbord. Melden Sie mir die aktuelle Tiefenmessung.
Der Grund liegt tiefer als 150 Meter, Herr Kaloy. Die
Yeah,
Messung
that ship
ist
isn't
nicht
going to go
präzise
down any further. Come on. Roll. Something. I don't want to hit it with a torpedo. It can hurt the people on the surface in the lifeboat.
Langsame Fahrt voraus. Ruder 5 Grad, Steuerbord. Rudergänger 20 Grad, Steuerbord. Ruder mittschiffs. Kleine Fahrt voraus.
My ship's not going down. Come on.
Alle Maschinen stopp.
They must have locked out the engine room. Right.
Kleine Fahrt voraus. Ruder 25 Grad, Backbord.
Guess we will set up a torpedo strike and make sure this thing sinks.
Tor 2 bewässern. Ruder mittschiffs.
Need to get a certain distance away so the torpedo will actually have time to reach the surface and arm.
Kurs 2, 9, 0 Grad.
Okay. And it'll be time to get this all set up, and I'll go down and set the distance doesn't matter, the speed doesn't matter, just the bearing matters at this point, and the depth. We want it to explode. We don't want it to go underneath the bow, so we want to set it to a depth of 0.
Alle Maschinen stopp. Halbe Fahrt zurück.
Okay, I'll go down and get this set.
Bestätige.
All right.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Geschwindigkeit 0 Knoten. Aktualisieren. Gegnerlage 9-0 rechts. Aktualisieren. Entfernung zum Ziel 400 Meter.
All right, I think we will hit the
Alle
brakes
Maschinen
now.
stopp. Aktualisieren. Lage 8-5 Bug rechts.
All right, let's go to the midship part here. And fire.
Los! 40 Sekunden bis Torpedoeinschlag. 30 Sekunden.
Good thing those boats are far, lifeboats are far enough away.
20 Sekunden. Zehn Sekunden bis
You can see the
Einschlag.
torpedo on the surface there. Wow.
Fehlschuss.
Nope. It'll hit. Give it a couple more seconds. Come on. How can you miss at that range?
Feindliches Schiff
There it is.
getroffen. Feuer an Deck.
The fire will burn up the oxygen and it will sink. Gotta get credit for our sinking.
Sie gehen unter.
Gute Arbeit, Männer. Sehr gut gemacht. Das war ein brillanter Schuss. Weiter so. Augen auf und immer bereit für den nächsten Angriff.
Okay, let's return to course. Go back to, I believe it's course
Kurs
30.
3,0 Grad. Auf Dieselmotoren wechseln.
Oh, hold on. Whoa, what just happened here? Oh, what just happened here? King of the sky.
Ruder 20 Grad. Backbord.
We have returned to course, and in a moment I'm going to swing by and see if those are supplies I can take on deck.
Ruder mittschiffs. Funkraum besetzen.
Telegramm gesendet.
Kleine Fahrt voraus.
This is the freezing menu, I should say.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle. Wird erledigt, Herr Kanal.
Okay, well, I'll let that guy go get his parts. And then once the parts are picked up by him, we can grab the med kits. These are supplies that will help us in the future. We don't have to pay for them, right?
Kits.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle. Bestätige. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kanoi? Natürlich, Herr Kanoi.
Thank you for those who are still watching or have watched this 2-hour stream. Just about to end it once we clear the horizon of the ship. First, I'm going to need to set up the course, though. And I believe our course is going to be .065.
Kurs 6,5 Grad.
Okay.
Bestätige.
Alright, we're good there. Winding up.
Halbe Fahrt voraus.
Engines are cold, so even at half speed, smoking a little bit more than I want to. Won't take very long for those boats to disappear out of sight.
Bestätige.
That's actually I mean, I will capture today's news broadcast if we can. Yeah, we'll get the news when we leave.
just hear seagulls? Smoke's cleared up quite a bit there now. Thank you to those who have watched the stream. I'm just going to leave it with the music and sounds of the ocean as we leave these lifeboats off in the distance behind us as we head towards our objective of Port of Bergen. We are getting close to the fjords, so there will be a lot more manual navigation that will have to take place for safety. We'll have to do a lot of course corrections as we navigate the fjord. Hopefully we hit there at the right time, because there are some areas, I believe, in the fjord that during low tide we may not be able to pass through. So I'm going to be entering through part of the fjord that I've never gone through before, so I'm not sure if it's deeper port or if it's deeper or not. The ship that we sank was headed in this direction, so it's quite possible that that ship is that passage is passable by a ship. We will find out in the next episode of U-Boat: The Skipper's Life. Thank you for watching. Take care.
langsame Fahrt voraus.